Hey guys, how are you? So I am Srijita Sengupta. Welcome to the fourth episode of our live podcast show, Candidly Speaking. Almost every one of us dream to work at a MAANG company for at least once in their life, isn't it right? But during the preparation phase, most of the people get busy in watching the videos like Life at Google, Perks and Benefits of Working at Google, or the salary in Google, and so on. So the problem arises because people only talk about the positive outcomes for working at Google, but they never talk about the negative outcomes or the aftermath of joining Google or how the actual job is at Google, like the code review process, the day-to-day responsibilities, or the work-life balance, and so on. So, breaking all the stereotypes, today we are going to introduce you with a person who can give you all the insights about the job in the Google because he is currently the software engineer at Google and he is none other than Mr. Attri Ghosal. So now I would like to add him. Yeah, hello Attri, how are you?
Hey, Srijita. Yeah, I'm doing good.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to our podcast.
Sure. Thanks
And
for.
yeah, so now I would like to add the host of our show, Mr. Rajat Mondol.
Thank you, Srijita.
Yeah, so that was all from me, and now I would like to leave. Thank you.
So, first of all, hi, Utri.
Hey, Rajat.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. So, how are you doing?
Just doing fine, and yep, happy to see you all.
Thank you. So, I would like to first like to tell you that can you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Yep, sure. So, I'm a software engineer at Google. I have been here for 2 months now. Prior to that, I had 2 years of full-time experience. I have been working with Rebecca Technologies in the first 1 year of my career. So it's basically a telecom company. And then the next 1 year of my life, I was actually working as a backend engineer at Swiggy. And now I got an opportunity to interview at Google, and fortunately, I was able to, get through it. And now I work as a full stack engineer at Google. Yep. So that's brief about my um, career. And then things that I like is I like coding a lot, and yep, I also like to do music. Over to you, Rajat.
So, yeah. So, the music part was new. I knew that you like coding from your profile. Like we are watching your LinkedIn profile. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And this was all about your professional life. So, after passing out, but if we can go a little bit before that, in college, during your college days. So, how was your college days? How did you spend your 4 years in college? Because I know that you passed out in 2020. So, it was pre-COVID era. We can say that now. So, how was that?
Well, yeah, I would say it was a little smooth. And the reason is I started interning in the third year of my college, and I interned for the half of my third year and then the full of fourth year. And eventually, I got a PPO from Rebecca Technologies. So, again, that has been, fortunate on me. And if you talk about the courses in academics, it's really important to follow the courses, especially the subjects: computer networks, operating system, DBMS, data structures, algorithms, and to some extent computer architecture. So these are few things, of course, from the software point of view. If you're trying to follow a career in software engineering, these are the subjects you should stress on. And yep, I've personally stressed on these subjects. So
Got
yeah.
it.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah. Now we will move forward there. So when I was going through your profile, I saw that you are SWE at Google. SWE. So I want to ask you, like it is a personal question. What is the difference between SDE and SWE, and what was the JD like when you approached or when you were approached for the interview?
Well, to be honest, there's no difference. It's the different way of expressing the designation. Some companies prefer to call it software development engineer. Some prefer to call it software engineer. And ideally, there's no difference in the work that you do. But yeah, there's like, if you see technically, there is a very small difference. Like in software engineering, you do a lot more than development. Okay. So you make your designs, you get it reviewed, you basically think of the solution, you talk loud about that solution. So those are the extra things that you do on top of development. So development is not the only thing.
Okay.
So yeah.
So,
So
can I call you solution architect on that basis? Like you were saying, you would design things and talk about that stuff. So, can we call a SWE a solution architect, or is it different?
well, if you think about solution architect, there is a specific position for a solution architect, or a software architect, you can call. Now,
Yeah.
software architects are basically experts. So let's say you are designing all of, let's say, Google search engine. So an SWE cannot start designing it from the scratch, right? It's the senior person, the solution architect has to come in, pitch in, um, you know design all the different larger components. And what an SWE does is takes a comparatively smaller component and designs, the high level design and low level design of it. So solution architect basically um, deals with a much more larger system, while the scope of a SWE is much more limited.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, SWE is basically a subset of solution architect.
You can call that.
Okay.
You can.
Now I want to ask you, like, how was you? I mean, how did you get the interview opportunity? And can you tell a little more about the interview process?
Okay, yeah, sure. So the recruiter at Google actually reached out to me over LinkedIn, and um, I I wasn't really looking out for a job at that point in time, but yeah, the position and the brand actually was a motivation behind actually applying for it. So I did apply for it, and I prepared for around 3 weeks. And post that, my interview started. So if you talk about the interview procedure, there's a there's a pre-qualifier round where the standard of questions is not very high. It's medium to high, I would say. And every round is of 45 minutes. So you are expected to read through the problem, understand it, and code it out within 40 minutes. If you are given two medium or medium high level questions, then it is going to take 20 minutes each question. So you'll be given two questions, 20 minutes each. And if it's a very hard level question, you'll be given one question which you have to solve in 40 minutes. So post the pre-qualifier round is mainly on data structures algorithms. Post that, you have three more on-site rounds of data structures and algorithms, and one round for googliness. Now, googliness is basically a behavioral round where you are evaluated as per how fit you are, um, for the Google culture. To be more specific, how you add value to the Google culture. So, yep, that's the final round that's conducted. Then combined decision is taken from the results of all these rounds. So your performance goes for review to the hiring committee. The hiring committee decides whether you are a whether it's a higher call, and then if you get a higher call, it goes to the compensation team, and then your compensation negotiation happens, and the final offer is rolled out.
Got it. Okay, so now as we talked about the interview process, so the next thing comes after onboarding at Google. What was the thing that they do? Like, I know that you are experienced developer, so
Mhm.
and we was talking off screen. So you said you are currently at training. So does this happen to everyone that join Google, like SD3 and upper level of that? All of them go through the training process, or is it like the lower level?
So starting from very junior engineers to very senior engineers, everyone go through this 1 month training, and that's a very good thing actually. It lets you go through the know-hows of how Google work, what are the cultural aspects of it, not only code, but what are the cultural aspects of it. So it's a very good, a walkthrough process, I would say, that you go through in this 1 month.
Yeah.
And yep, and post the 1 month, you actually go to your home team where you are going to do the actual work, and then onboarding happens there. You will learn something specific to that team, and post that you start your work there.
Got it. So, before training also onboarding happens, or is it only after training that the main onboarding takes place?
Well, when you say onboarding, I assume it is, onboarding to the company. So
Yeah.
there are different levels of onboarding. First is onboarding to the company. That happens
Okay.
in the first month. Then onboarding to your home team. When I say
Okay.
onboarding, I mean get understanding the know-hows of how the team works.
Got it.
What is the hierarchy, what is the tech stack. So that you get to know in the second month.
So, do you know which team you will be assigned, or you don't know?
Yeah, I'm primarily working for Google Ads.
So that is really important for us as well. So yeah. Okay. So now I want to ask you that there are many different teams at Google. So usually, how many people is there in a team?
That depends completely on the kind of work, the volume of work, and yeah, the most important thing, the budget of the team. So
Got it.
these are the three things that depends, and based on the major chunk, is based on the volume of work that you have. So if it's a large project, basically you have a large team. Under that, you have sub teams for each different product. So yeah,
Got it.
it can range from 4 people team to 20 people team.
And there will be a team lead for a specific team.
That's correct.
And what are the tech stacks that you will be using?
Well, tech stack is something that is internal to Google, so I cannot really,
Okay.
say that in public. But what I
Yeah.
can say is it's pretty much like the things that are available out there as open source. So it's pretty much like that, but they have different names and different ways of working inside Google.
Okay. So now I mean, let's take our discussion aside, and I will ask you one again a personal question. So I was going through an article, and there was this written like Google's whole code is a monolith structure. So is that correct?
Again, it's something that I cannot reveal. I'm
Okay.
bound not to do it, so I would prefer not answering the question.
Oh, sure. No, not a problem. And as you have not worked in Google, so let's talk about your Swiggy days. So, I mean, how was the work pressure there? How did you, what was the deadline like, and that kind of stuff? So, I mean, you worked there for 1 year. So what are the kind of things that you worked on? Like, I saw some people working on Swiggy Instamart, and you said you were working the backend. So, what was the specific thing?
Okay, actually I was working in ads team in Swiggy as well. So yep, I was a backend engineer and working primarily on Java, Spring Boot, Elasticsearch, AWS. So yeah, that was it. And yeah, primarily
Got
this.
it.
And you are
So,
talking about work pressure, right? So
yeah.
work pressure, well, it's not uniform. Like you don't have too much pressure throughout, or you don't have too less work throughout. It depends. It depends on which phase the project is in, right? If it's a very spotlight project, it needs to be done quick, then of course there's a lot of pressure. And there have been days where I've worked 2 to 3 hours a day, and there have been days I've worked 16 hours a day. So it depends on the priority of the project. And overall, I would say the balance was quite good. And you get really quality work there in Swiggy. Like you have to deal with a lot of scale, um, and a lot of throughput. So These are, technical jargons. I don't want to get into too
Yeah.
much depth, but yeah, it's pretty interesting how you deal with things in Swiggy.
So let's take an example that you have a work, and for that you raise a MR. So how often did you raise MR during your Swiggy days?
So you have a specific feature to develop,
Yeah.
right? And for that feature, you will have a proper work assigned. We call it ticket in
Yeah. Jira
in
ticket. I mean, yeah.
that's correct. Jira ticket in the name of software engineering.
Yeah.
So the ideal way is for per feature or per ticket, you raise one code review request, one PR review request, right? So that's basically you one merge request per feature. That's the ideal number.
Got it. And
But
how much time? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was
You
saying
can go ahead, sir.
sometimes if the PR is sometimes if the feature is too big, right, then you
Yeah.
can break it into smaller chunks. If it is too small, then you can take 2 3 tickets together and raise only one PR for it. Depends on how much volume does is the code of, or how big is the feature.
Got it. So how much time did it usually take to review one MR?
Okay. Again, two things depends. One is the volume of the code, of course, and
Yeah.
then what type of quality are you checking? So definitely, like like the practice that we follow, that if we had, let's say, 40 hours a week, right? Out of that 40 hours, we are going to dedicate at least, 5 to 6 hours, and sometimes even 8 hours for code review. That is the time we dedicated per week, 5 to 6 hours. And in 5 to 6 hours, you can review at least 2 PRs.
So, did it ever occur to you like you raise a PR which contains like 1,000 line of changes and it came and it was approved within an hour, and you raised a PR which contains 10 lines of changes and it took like 2 or 3 days? Did it ever happen to you? Like,
Well, again, there are a lot of factors. It's not really about the volume of code, it's about the availability of the reviewer as well. Everyone
yeah,
is
true.
busy doing their own features, right? So you have to bug them, you have to um, bring them into work and let them know that something is waiting for their review.
Yeah,
So it depends on the availability of the reviewer, and it depends on how good the reviewer is, what all things is he actually noticing. So if he's a very strict reviewer, it can take him a lot of time to go through even 10 lines of code, right? And then but if the reviewer is not busy and is not too strict, then even 1,000 lines of code can be done in 1 hour, which is not that good. We should not
yeah.
do that. But yeah,
It was actually a LinkedIn meme. That's why I asked. Like, I have to confirm it from someone who is from a big tech company.
yeah. So actually, it is suggested if your code review has more than 1,000 lines of code, break it into small chunks so that um, it's more
Okay.
faster and more things can be looked at.
Okay. So, oh, got it. So the next question would be, did you write test cases for your codes that you wrote, or is it someone else who write the test cases?
No, if it's you writing the code, you have to write the test case. That's the simple strategy that is being followed, and you have to write unit tests. You have to write integration tests and all types of tests. It is you who have to write it. Now, if you talk about the end-to-end test cases, those are usually written by QA engineers, like who test the entire flow.
Got it. I mean, you haven't officially worked at Google, but depending on the things that you hear around the company, can you give us a brief about what is the difference, like the difference between the work culture and the, what can I say, experience level or the difficulty between Swiggy, Google, and your first company, Rebecca Technologies?
Okay. Um, the main thing that is different out here is scale. So everything works at planet scale here. So, like, you have to think about the whole world before you actually release something. You have to think about diversity. Like, all different kinds of peoples are actually going to use your product. So you have to be very careful. You serve them uh, well and you serve them correctly. So you have to
Yeah,
keep a lot of things when it comes to Google. But whereas in Swiggy, the thing was much more speed driven. How fast can you get things done for the users? So the focus was not really on variability, but much more towards how fast you can get things done, right? So that is the usual difference that you see usually in a grown-up company and a big but still growing company. That's the difference you see. And if you talk about work culture, well, Google is known for its culture. Like,
yeah,
it's very well known for its culture. People are very fun to work with here. You get to play a lot of things, and then you have quite a few things to do in the office for your entertainment, and then the free food is there. I believe most of you have heard about it. So
yeah.
yeah, that's basically it. That's the quick difference that I can talk of.
Got it. So now this is kind of a fun question, but when I was talking to a friend, like I am going to interview, I'm going in a podcast with a Swiggy and Google engineer. He told me to ask this question, right? Right. So he told me like as a Swiggy engineer, or we can take Zomato as well. If you're working in this kind of tech companies, do you get free food coupons like when you order from the app?
Well, you do get it sometimes. Let's say you do a great job, you put some additional efforts, you take interviews on the weekend, then usually you are awarded coupons and you can redeem them to buy foods on Swiggy.
Got it. Okay, so now let's come back to the main podcast section. So, I mean, how often do you use a data structure and an algorithm in your day-to-day coding during your production level coding?
Everything is data structures and algorithms. If you are using an array, that's also a data structures algorithm. If you are using a list,
No, I am asking about the specific algorithms that we learn before going into competitive coding, or you can say lead coding. That kind of algorithms. For example, sliding window or that kind of stuff.
well, yeah, you use them, but you use them very rarely. When it comes to development, you are not using a Fenwick tree or a segmented tree all the way,
Yeah,
right? You are not using dynamic programming. So that's true that we don't use dynamic programming in our daily lives or daily coding. It might be, once in a year or once in 2 years. Maybe you are using the complex algorithms.
yeah.
Um, so if you talk about how often are we using the complex algorithms that we are studying for interviews, then a one sentence answer would be really not often. So maybe once in a year or once in 2 years we are using that.
Okay. As you said that you use it really often. So my next question would be, if someone want to go into pure development purposes, for example, in a front end, like with React and JavaScript, and he don't want to learn data structures, so is it fine or is it not fine? Like he knows the basic problem solving skills, he knows how to sort an array, how to use linked list and all, but he don't want to get into too much deeper, like trees and graph and all. So is it fine?
Well, it's a difficult question to answer, but ideally should be fine. But then we have to have a common way of judging people, right? React, somebody other knows Angular, somebody knows Java Spring Boot. Then essentially there should be a common way of judging them, and data structures and algorithms is something that is common to all of them, that we can judge them upon. But yep, I agree on the point that you definitely need not learn the complex algorithms in data structures algorithms to get the work done. But yeah, to get the job, essentially.
Yeah.
In these companies, you have to study this.
So now let's come back from the interviews, and I wanted to ask you, how is the work-life balance during throughout your 4 years? I mean, four, not four, 2 years of work experience. Like, uh, how did you manage? Like, when people start working for a company, it is really hard for someone to manage work with everything else because it is taking too much of our time in the beginning. How did you manage that?
So I had been interning for 1.5 years, and that really helped me understand how the corporate world works,
Yeah.
how essentially you need to schedule your tasks, and how efficiently do you need to complete them so you don't have to work over hours. So it is not that I haven't worked over the hours. I had to do, like you're mentioning, in the initial days to get accustomed to the system, to get accustomed to the tech stacks. But then eventually, when I learned that how things work, usually it's simpler. And if you ask me how many days did it take, 2 months. Usually it takes 2 months for you to understand the system, and then you can definitely have a good balance in your work.
Okay. Is it ever happened to you like you missed a deadline for a work?
If you have asked me, okay, yeah, actually, yes, it has happened, and it happens with most of us in the industry,
Yeah.
because of some unprecedented situations, like
True.
something came in that you weren't even aware of. These are ad hoc tasks that actually pops up because you're building huge systems, right? And you
True.
might not know what all is inside, and this leads to some unprecedented situations that were not even thought of during the initial days while you gave your estimations, and that actually leads to spillover of the tasks, which is, I personally think, completely fine. Meeting deadlines, yeah, it should be the target, but it should not be the primary target. Primary
No,
target
I
should
was actually asking you because as a fresher, people
be.
has this really, I mean, what can we say, taboo mindset. Like when we don't meet a deadline, this is a really big crime and something. So I was just wanted to clear the things. So is it like that or is it casual? Like it happens with everyone?
Yeah, it happens pretty much with most of the people out there,
Yeah,
but it depends on how your employer is, how your team is. If your team is good enough, your employer is good enough, they will actually support you in going through that and making it a success, even if you're missing deadlines. So the important thing while you join is to learn and learn a lot more, right? Instead of focusing on the deadlines, if you're focusing
got
more
it,
on your learning, eventually you'll be able to meet deadlines at a later point in time.
got it. So you mentioned that you were doing internship during your third year and fourth year. So
That's correct.
was your college supportive about it or did they make a fuss about it?
Yeah, yeah, college was absolutely in favor of doing that. And so even if I had to miss a few classes sometimes,
Yeah.
um, on giving proper notice, I was allowed to do that. So college was in full support, I would say.
Got it. So now, again, one personal question. I was going through a post on LinkedIn and I saw that there was this saying, like cracking a job is easier than surviving at that job. So do you support this statement and why?
Well, it somewhat relates to your DSA and development controversy that you asked sometime before. If you are
Yeah,
doing only DSA and you are not doing and you are doing zero development, right? So ultimately, when you enter the company, all you have to do is development and not DSA. So DSA and zero development is very harmful. And if you're following that practice, basically those kind of things lead to this kind of situations. So you have to find a perfect balance. You have to find a perfect balance between DSA and development, and only then you'll be both able to crack the job and be able to survive in that job.
okay. Okay, so if a first year or a second year person is starting coding, then what are the kind of languages that you will prefer or you will suggest to that person?
Okay, one personal opinion here is don't start coding in first year. Have some fun, because
Yeah.
college is the ultimate place where you can have fun. So have fun in the first year, and then if you're starting in the second year, uh, yeah, you can start with basic data structures, like arrays and stuffs like that, and take it slow, take it easy, because you have 3 years in your hand. Go topic by topic, practice 15 to 20 questions each topic, then move to the next topic. And what is more important is, um, revision. You tend to forget whatever you have learned. So once you have learned new things for a couple of months, take a break, revise whatever you have learned in these 2 months, and goes accordingly, so on and so forth. And when you feel confident, if you feel you want to do competitive programming, feel free to do that. It's not a mandatory, but if you look forward to it, if you think that something interests you, feel free to do that.
And what languages will you suggest for starting, like Java or C++?
You can pick any language of your choice. Uh, so you can either pick C++ or pick Java or pick Python. I would suggest not picking C, because when you have to code fast, C might not be the right choice. If you're learning coding, then feel free to start with C. Actually, C is a good language to start with because you don't have too many things in C. But
Yeah.
if you are going for job interviews, it is prefer not to code in C, because you cannot take few shortcuts which you can take in other object-oriented languages like C++ and Java. So you
Got it.
can prepare for the interviews in either C++, Java, or Python, whichever you think is good with you. No harm in choosing any one of them.
Okay. So we are currently at the final moments of our podcast, and this is a question that I ask everyone, every guest that comes. So if you can go back in time with all of your experience and knowledge, would you be able to do anything different, or would you want to do anything different that you have done?
Maybe I would have enjoyed, few more evenings in my first year. So
Okay.
I
Did you
tried
started coding on your first year itself?
in the later part of the first year. So
So that's why you suggested to do it from second year. Yeah, got it.
yeah, definitely, I would like to have fun if I am given a chance.
Anything else from the personal career point of view?
Yeah. Um, the bad thing that I did is I learned coding, then I gave a 3 months gap, then I again started it, then I gave a 6 months gap. So as you can understand, there was lacking consistency. So it took me 2 years to reach here. If you are doing things with consistency, you might not need 2 years of professional experience to be here. You can be just out of college and be in Google. So yeah, that's one thing that I might want to change.
Got it. Okay, so that was all the kind of question that I want to ask you as a junior. Like I really, it was a really interesting session with you. I came to know a lot, came to know a lot. And the last thing that I will ask you to do is, if you have any suggestion for freshers or the folks who are in fourth year like me. So if you have any suggestion, feel free to give it. Like I will note it down.
Yeah, sure. First thing is, software engineering is not about, going to cool offices, eating cool lunch, and sitting in the cafe chatting with your friends. 80% of the time you'll be coding or you'll be designing things. So if you are coming to this field or any other field, first see if the work interests you. Okay, if the work interests you, you can of course make money and go to cafes and go to cool places outside. It doesn't have to be the office. So uh, take the subject matter a little more seriously. Find if that's something that interests you, and then you can definitely um reach there. and prepare accordingly. So if you're choosing software engineering, make sure to do some development alongside data structures algorithm, because yep, like Rajat said, you need to survive. It's not only about entering the job, you need to survive. So you need to do find a balance on both. Yep, that's it, Rajat.
That's a really good thing. I mean, this is a really good phase to end the session. So yeah, that will be all, and I will just end the session here.
Sure. Thanks a lot.
Bye, guys.